The wagon wheel snapped with a decisive crack that echoed across the empty prairie like a gunshot, leaving Hazel Dawson stranded beneath the merciless June sun of 1875. She stood in her wedding dress, a simple ivory creation that had taken months to save for now streaked with dust from the journey, staring hopelessly at the broken cart that was supposed to carry her to her new life. "Perfect," Hazel muttered, wiping sweat from her brow with a lace-gloved hand. "Just perfect." The small wagon contained everything she owned in the world. 3 days ago, she'd fled the church in Copper Springs, leaving behind a groom who had turned out to be more interested in her father's mining claim than in her. Now here she was, miles from anywhere, with a broken axle and no way to fix it. Hazel lifted her skirts and knelt beside the wheel, examining the damage. The wooden axle had split clean through. She wasn't completely helpless growing up, with 4 brothers had taught her plenty about fixing things, but this required tools she didn't have. The sound of approaching hoofbeats made her whirl around, heart hammering. This far from town, a stranger could mean help or danger. The rider appeared over the rise, silhouetted against the azure Montana sky, a tall man on a chestnut horse, moving at an unhurried pace. Hazel's hand moved instinctively to the small derringer hidden in her pocket. Her father had insisted she carry it when she left home for her wedding, and now she was grateful. As the rider drew closer, she could make out more details. Broad shoulders, a weathered Stetson, and a face tanned by years under the sun. His eyes, clear and blue as mountain lakes, assessed the situation quickly before he reined his horse to a stop. "Appears you've got yourself some trouble, miss," he said, his voice carrying a slight drawl. "Nothing I can't handle," Hazel replied, though they both knew it was a lie. The stranger dismounted in one fluid motion. "Name's Samuel Irwin. Most folks call me Sam." He touched the brim of his hat. "You planning to fix that axle with those pretty gloves, madam?" Hazel straightened her back. "I'm Hazel Dawson. And no, I was planning to use my extensive collection of invisible tools." A smile played at the corners of his mouth, crinkling the skin around his eyes. "Well, Miss Dawson, lucky for you, my tools are a bit more substantial." He nodded toward his saddlebags. "Mind if I take a look?" Hazel hesitated. She'd learned the hard way not to trust handsome men with easy smiles, but her options were limited. "Please do." Sam knelt beside the wagon, inspecting the broken axle. "This is a clean break. I can fix it, but it'll take some time. Where were you headed in such a hurry? And in that dress?" His eyes swept over her wedding attire, curiosity evident. "Away," Hazel said simply. "Just away." Sam nodded, understanding without needing details. "Well, I've got supplies at my place not far from here. We can fix this proper, get you back on your way." He stood, dusting off his hands. "That is, if you don't mind accepting help from a stranger." "Do I have a choice?" "Always, Miss Dawson, but some choices are easier than others." Hazel looked at her broken wagon, then at the vast emptiness surrounding them, and finally at Sam Irwin's open face. There was something in his eyes, honesty maybe, or kindness, that made her nod. "I accept your help, Mr. Irwin. Good decision." He unhooked the damaged wheel. "We'll need to take this with us. Can you ride?" Hazel laughed despite herself. "Since before I could walk." Sam helped her unhitch her horse from the wagon, securing her belongings as best they could. "We'll come back for the rest tomorrow." Within minutes, they were riding side by side, Hazel with her wedding dress bunched awkwardly around her knees, the broken wheel tied to Sam's saddle. The prairie stretched out before them, golden in the late afternoon light. "I don't usually pick up runaway brides," Sam said conversationally. Hazel looked at him sharply. "What makes you think the dress? The direction you're coming from, away from Copper Springs on your wedding day." "News travels fast in these parts. Are you going to take me back?" Hazel asked, suddenly wary. Sam shook his head. "Not my business to tell anyone where they ought to be. I'm just offering to fix your wheel." Relief washed over her. "Thank you." They rode in comfortable silence until a small homestead appeared on the horizon. It was modest but well maintained, a cabin with smoke curling from the chimney, a barn, a corral with several horses, and fields of wheat stretching into the distance. "It's not much," Sam said, "but it's home." "It's beautiful," Hazel replied honestly. After the cramped quarters above her father's store, the open space felt like freedom. As they approached, a boy of about 10 ran out to greet them. "Pa, you're back early." The boy skidded to a halt when he spotted Hazel. "Who's the lady in the fancy dress?" "This is Miss Dawson," Sam explained. "Her wagon broke down. We're going to help her fix it." He turned to Hazel. "This is my son, Daniel." Hazel smiled at the boy, noting his resemblance to his father, the same blue eyes, though his hair was lighter, more wheat-colored than Sam's darker brown. "Where's Mrs. Irwin?" Hazel asked, glancing around. A shadow crossed Sam's face. "She passed 4 years ago." "I'm sorry," Hazel said softly. Daniel took the horses as they dismounted. "Pa makes a good stew," he offered, as if to reassure her. Sam's cabin was simple but comfortable, with handmade furniture and clean, worn rugs. A pot of stew bubbled on the stove, filling the room with savory aromas that reminded Hazel she hadn't eaten since morning. "You're welcome to wash up," Sam said, gesturing to a door. "Daniel, find Miss Dawson something more comfortable to wear." In the small bedroom, Hazel removed her wedding dress with relief. Daniel had left a shirt and trousers that must have belonged to his mother, along with a basin of water. As she washed the dust from her face, Hazel caught her reflection in a small mirror. Her dark hair had come loose from its pins, and her green eyes looked tired but somehow lighter than they had in weeks. When she emerged in the borrowed clothes, Sam was setting the table. "Thank you," Hazel said. "For everything?" Sam nodded. "You can take the bed tonight. Daniel and I will bunk in the loft." "I can't put you out like that. It's no trouble. Besides, I reckon you've had enough trouble for one day." Over dinner, Hazel learned that Sam had built this place from nothing after returning from the war. He grew wheat, raised horses, and occasionally worked as a blacksmith when neighbors needed repairs. Daniel peppered her with questions about her journey, carefully avoiding asking why she was in a wedding dress. After the boy went to bed, Hazel and Sam sat on the porch, watching the stars emerge in the vast Montana sky. "You want to tell me what you're running from?" Sam asked quietly. Hazel considered deflecting but found herself wanting to tell the truth. "I was supposed to marry Harold Blackfield today, son of the richest man in Copper Springs. It seemed like a good match. I'm not getting any younger at 22. Sam chuckled. "Practically ancient in these parts for an unmarried woman," she raised an eyebrow. "You know I'm right." Anyway, the day before the wedding, I overheard Harold talking to his father. "They weren't interested in me at all, just my father's mining claim. They've been trying to buy it for years. And marriage was their way in." Hazel nodded. "Exactly. So I waited until everyone was at the church, packed everything I owned, and left." "Where were you headed?" "My aunt lives in Helena. I thought I could stay with her until I figure things out." Hazel sighed. "I'm not going back. I'd rather make my own way than be someone's transaction." Sam looked at her with new respect. "That takes courage, or foolishness." "Sometimes they're the same thing." Sam stood. "We should turn in. Tomorrow we'll fix that wheel." True to his word, Sam was up at dawn, already working in his small forge when Hazel emerged from the cabin. She watched as he hammered a piece of metal, sparks flying with each strike. There was something mesmerizing about his movements, confident and precise. "Can I help?" she asked. Sam looked up, surprised. "You know smithing?" "No, but I'm a quick learner." He handed her a pair of heavy gloves. "Hold this steady." They worked through the morning, Hazel following Sam's instructions as they repaired the broken axle. By midday, sweat dampened her borrowed shirt, and her arms ached from the unfamiliar work, but there was satisfaction in seeing the repair take shape. Daniel brought them water and sandwiches, watching with interest as his father taught Hazel how to temper the metal. "You're doing it right," the boy told her. "Pa doesn't let just anyone help in the forge." Sam ruffled his son's hair. "That's because most folks don't listen as well as Miss Dawson." After lunch, they rode back to retrieve Hazel's wagon. Sam fitted the repaired wheel while Hazel and Daniel unloaded the small trunk of her belongings to lighten the load. "You've got books," Daniel noted with interest, peering into the trunk. "I do," Hazel confirmed. "Do you like reading?" The boy nodded enthusiastically. "Pa teaches me, but we don't have many books. Perhaps I could leave one for you as payment for your father's help." Daniel's eyes lit up. "Really? Really," Hazel said, smiling at his excitement. By late afternoon, the wagon was repaired. Hazel stood beside it, suddenly reluctant to leave. "What do I owe you for the repair?" Sam shook his head. "Nothing. I can't accept that." "You've spent a whole day, consider it neighborly kindness," Sam interrupted. "Though if you're set on staying in these parts, maybe you could teach Daniel more about reading. He's bright, but I can only take him so far." Hazel looked at him in surprise. "Staying? But I told you I'm headed to Helena." Sam leaned against the wagon. "You did, but there's plenty of need for educated folks around here. The town's growing. They're looking for a schoolteacher, actually." "A schoolteacher," Hazel repeated. The idea was appealing. She'd always enjoyed the lessons she'd given to her younger brothers. "Just a thought," Sam said, stepping back. "Either way, you're welcome to stay another night. It'll be dark soon, and these roads aren't safe after nightfall." Hazel glanced at the setting sun. He was right, and one more night wouldn't make much difference. "Thank you, I accept." That evening, after Daniel had gone to bed, Hazel and Sam again sat on the porch. The night was cooler, and Sam had brought out a blanket for her shoulders. "Why did you stop to help me?" Hazel asked. "Most men would have ridden on by." Sam considered this. "My Emma Daniel's mother, she used to say that opportunities to do right don't announce themselves with trumpets. They just appear on the side of the road, broken down and needing help." He smiled. "Though she probably wasn't being quite so literal. She sounds like she was wise." "She was." Sam looked up at the stars. "Consumption took her, nothing I could do but watch." His voice was steady, but Hazel could hear the old pain in it. "Daniel is a credit to you both," she said gently. "He's a good boy, deserves more than I can give him sometimes." They sat in comfortable silence until Sam spoke again. "That teaching position, it comes with a small house. Nothing fancy, but it's yours if you want it. The town council's desperate. Last teacher left to get married 2 months ago." "You seem very eager to keep me around, Mr. Irwin," Hazel observed. In the dim light, she could see color rise in his face. "Just being practical. Town needs a teacher. You need a fresh start." Hazel smiled. "I'll think about it." The next morning, Sam helped Hazel load her belongings back into the wagon. "Which way is town from here?" she asked casually. Sam looked at her with hope in his eyes. "You're staying." "I'm exploring my options," Hazel replied. "Helena isn't going anywhere. My aunt doesn't even know I'm coming." Relief and something more crossed Sam's face. "Town's about 5 miles east. Tell them Sam Irwin sent you about the teaching position." "I will, and maybe I could come back on Sunday. For Daniel's reading lesson," Sam nodded, unable to hide his smile. "We'd like that very much." Hazel's first weeks in the small town of Willow Creek passed in a blur of activity. The town council was indeed desperate for a teacher and hired her on the spot, especially after hearing Sam Irwin's recommendation. The schoolhouse was modest, just one room with rows of benches and a small blackboard, but to Hazel, it represented freedom. The promised house was attached to the back of the school. 2 rooms and a kitchen, simply furnished but clean. For the first time in her life, Hazel had a place that was truly her own. Every Sunday, she drove her wagon to the Irwin homestead for Daniel's reading lessons. The boy was a quick study, devouring the books she brought him. Sam always insisted she stay for dinner, and gradually, those Sunday meals became the highlight of her week. As summer turned to fall, Hazel found herself looking forward to seeing Sam as much as teaching Daniel. There was an ease between them that she'd never experienced with anyone else. Sam was nothing like the men she'd known in Copper Springs. He spoke little but listened intently. He respected her opinions and never tried to make decisions for her. One Sunday in early October, Hazel arrived to find Sam alone in the yard, splitting wood. "Where's Daniel?" she asked, climbing down from her wagon. Sam set down his axe. In town with the Cooper boys, their father needed help with a delivery. He looked uncertain for a moment. I hope it's not too awkward, just the two of us. Not at all, Hazel assured him, though her heart beat faster at the prospect. We're friends, aren't we? Friends, Sam repeated with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Yes, we are. Without Daniel's chatter to fill the silence, they found new things to talk about. Sam told her about his dreams for the farm, how he wanted to expand the wheat fields and breed horses. Hazel shared stories about her students and her plans for the school. I want to start a proper library, she explained as they walked through the golden wheat fields. Most of these children have never seen books beyond the Bible and whatever primer their parents might own. That's a fine ambition, Sam said. What can I do to help? Hazel looked at him in surprise. You want to help, of course. Education matters. Daniel's proof enough of that. Impulsively, Hazel reached for his hand. Thank you. Sam looked down at their joined hands, then back at her face. For a moment, Hazel thought he might kiss her, but instead, he gently squeezed her fingers and continued walking. As they returned to the cabin, dark clouds gathered on the horizon. Storm's coming, Sam observed. You should probably stay until it passes. The first fat raindrops began to fall as they reached the porch. Within minutes, the sky opened up, rain pounding against the roof with such force that conversation became difficult. Sam built a fire while Hazel made coffee. They sat before the hearth, the storm raging outside, wrapped in a companionable silence that needed no words to fill it. I never thought I'd feel this settled again, Sam said finally, watching the flames dance. After Emma died, I thought that part of my life was over. Hazel turned to him. What part? Having someone to talk to at the end of the day, someone who understands. He met her eyes. Someone who makes me look forward to Sundays. Hazel's heart quickened. Sam, you don't have to say anything, he interrupted gently. I know you came here for independence, not to get tangled up with a widower and his son. That's not, Hazel began, but was cut off by the sound of the door flying open. Daniel burst in, soaking wet and breathless. Pa, Miss Dawson. The river's rising fast. Mr. Cooper says everyone needs to move to higher ground. Sam was on his feet instantly. How bad? Water's already over the bank by town. They're evacuating folks now. We need to secure the animals, Sam said, already reaching for his coat. Hazel, you should. I'm helping, she said firmly, rising to join him. Tell me what to do. Sam looked like he wanted to argue but nodded instead. Daniel, get into dry clothes. Hazel, help me with the horses. The rain lashed at them as they ran to the barn. Inside, the horses were restless, sensing the danger. Water was already seeping under the door. We need to move them to the north pasture, Sam shouted over the storm. It's on higher ground. Together, they led the horses out into the downpour, fighting through wind that nearly knocked Hazel off her feet. The normally docile animals were panicked, requiring all her strength to control. By the time they reached the north pasture, Hazel was exhausted and drenched to the bone. Sam secured the gate, then turned to her, rainwater streaming down his face. You're remarkable, he said, his voice barely audible over the storm. Before Hazel could respond, a sound like a gunshot rang out, followed by a deep rumbling. Sam's eyes widened. The creek bank. He grabbed her hand, and they ran toward the house. Daniel was on the porch, pointing frantically toward the small creek that bordered the property. What had been a gentle stream that morning was now a raging torrent, and as they watched, a section of the bank collapsed, sending water surging toward the fields. Get to the wagon, Sam shouted. Take only what you need. Daniel disappeared into the house while Sam pulled Hazel toward the barn where her wagon stood. You need to get to higher ground, he told her. Take Daniel with you to town. I'm not leaving you here, Hazel protested. Someone has to try to divert the water from the wheat fields, Sam insisted. That's our livelihood. Then I'm staying too. Sam gripped her shoulders. Hazel, please, I can't lose, he stopped, emotion overwhelming him. I can't worry about you and fight this flood. Hazel saw the fear in his eyes, not for himself, but for her and Daniel. She nodded reluctantly. We'll go to town, but you come as soon as you can. Promise me." "I promise." Daniel returned with a small bag of belongings. Sam embraced his son fiercely. "Go with Miss Dawson, do exactly as she says." "But Pa, no arguments, I'll be right behind you." Hazel hitched up her wagon with Sam's help, her hands shaking from cold and fear. As they finished, Sam pulled her close, his eyes intense. "When this is over," he said, his voice low and urgent, "there's something I need to tell you." "Tell me now," Hazel insisted. Sam shook his head. "Not like this, not rushed." He pressed a quick kiss to her forehead. "Go, keep my boy safe." The journey to town was harrowing. The road had become a river in places, forcing them to find alternative routes. Daniel sat beside Hazel, silent and scared, clutching his bag of treasured possessions. "Your father will be fine," Hazel assured him, hoping she sounded more confident than she felt. "He's the most capable man I know." By nightfall, they reached the town church, which stood on the highest ground and had become a refuge for those displaced by the flood. Inside, families huddled on pews, children sleeping while adults spoke in worried whispers. Hazel found them a place to sit and wrapped a blanket around Daniel's shoulders. The hours crawled by with agonizing slowness, each minute without Sam's arrival stretching her nerves thinner. "He promised he'd come," Daniel said, his voice small in the crowded church. "And he will," Hazel replied with all the conviction she could muster. "Your father doesn't break promises." It was nearly dawn when the church door opened, admitting a gust of cold air and a tall figure covered in mud. Hazel's heart leaped as Sam stepped inside, scanning the faces until he found them. Daniel was on his feet instantly, running to his father. Sam caught him up in a fierce embrace, his eyes seeking Hazel over his son's shoulder. The look of relief and something deeper in those blue eyes made her breath catch. "The farm?" she asked when they reached her. "Standing," Sam said wearily. "Creek carved a new channel around the wheat fields instead of through them. We lost the chicken coop and part of the garden, but the house and barn are intact." "Thank God," Hazel whispered. Sam touched her cheek gently. "Thank you for keeping Daniel safe." "We kept each other safe," she corrected, smiling at the boy who had fallen asleep against his father's side. The next few days were filled with cleanup efforts. The whole town turned out to help those hardest hit by the flood. Hazel worked alongside Sam, rebuilding fences and clearing debris from his land. Each evening, exhausted but satisfied with their progress, they would sit on his porch, watching the sunset over the damaged but healing landscape. On the third evening, as they shared a simple meal, Sam finally spoke of what had been on his mind since the flood. "I nearly lost everything," he said quietly. "Again, but this time it felt different." "How so?" Hazel asked. Sam looked at her directly. "Because this time what I feared losing most wasn't the farm or even the memories of Emma, it was the future I've been imagining, with you." Hazel's heart pounded. "Sam, let me finish," he said gently. "I know we haven't known each other long, just 4 months since I found you beside that broken wagon, but I've learned enough to know that you're the strongest, kindest woman I've ever met. Daniel adores you." "And he took a deep breath. "I've fallen in love with you, Hazel Dawson." Hazel found herself unable to speak, overwhelmed by the sincerity in his voice. "I'm not asking for an answer right now," Sam continued. "I know you came here for independence, not to tie yourself to someone else so soon. I just wanted you to know where I stand." Hazel reached for his hand. "Sam Irwin, do you really think I'd spend every Sunday here, help you through a flood, and rebuild your fences if I wasn't already in love with you too?" The hope that dawned on his face was beautiful to behold. "You mean that?" "With all my heart," Hazel smiled. "You fixed my broken wagon that day, but you also showed me what a good man looks like, what a partnership could be." Sam pulled her into his arms, his kiss both tender and passionate, a promise and a beginning all at once. Winter came early that year, blanking the prairie in snow by mid-November. Hazel continued teaching at the schoolhouse, but more and more of her evenings were spent at the Irwin farm, reading to Daniel or planning with Sam for spring planting. On Christmas Eve, with snow falling gently outside, Sam asked Hazel to marry him. He presented her with a simple gold band that had belonged to his grandmother. "It's not fancy," he apologized, "but it comes with a promise that you'll never be a transaction or a convenience. You'll be my partner, my equal, and the love of my life." Hazel, tears shining in her eyes, held out her hand. "Yes," she whispered. "1,000 times yes." They were married on New Year's Day, 1876, in the same church where they had sheltered during the flood. Daniel stood proudly beside his father, holding the rings. The townspeople who had become Hazel's friends filled the pews, celebrating the union of their schoolteacher and the quiet farmer who had helped rebuild their community after the flood. As they exchanged vows, Hazel thought of the journey that had brought her here from a runaway bride beside a broken cart to a woman who had found not just independence, but love on her own terms. Spring arrived, bringing new life to the land and to the Irwin household. Hazel continued teaching, riding to town each morning and returning each afternoon to help with the farm. Sam expanded his wheat fields and bred his first pair of horses for sale. Daniel excelled in his studies, his reading now advanced enough that he helped younger children at school. In June, exactly 1 year after Sam had found Hazel stranded on the prairie, they stood together on their porch watching the sunset. "Any regrets?" Sam asked, his arm around her waist. Hazel leaned into him. "Only that it took a broken wagon to find you." "I'd fix 1,000 broken wheels for the life we have now," Sam replied, kissing her softly. As twilight deepened into night, Hazel took Sam's hand and placed it gently on her stomach. "We might need a bigger house soon," she said, smiling at the wonder that spread across his face. "Really?" Sam whispered. Hazel nodded. "Come November, there will be one more Irwin in this house." Sam gathered her close, his joy too great for words. Together they stood, wrapped in each other's arms, beneath the vast Montana sky that had witnessed their beginning and now blessed their future. In the years that followed, Hazel would often tell their children the story of how she had waited beside a broken cart, how their father had fixed it, and how in doing so he had promised her forever a promise that, with each passing day, he continued to keep.